All right, welcome back to another episode of Small Guys Podcast. Today we're doing Inside Out 2. This story follows Riley in her teenage years encountering new emotions. The movie currently has a 91% critic score and 96% audience score. What do you guys think of this movie?
Pixar does some good work. They put out another good one. I think we went into it with expectations that it would be pretty good, and I'd say it delivered. I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be the greatest movie of all time, but my expectations and hopes are usually high when it's Pixar for animated films, and I don't know. I came out and I was happy with it. I thought it was a good movie. Like, just initial thoughts.
I'd agree the same and say the same. But Josh, real quickly, can you pull up what's the scores for the first Inside Out?
Yeah, I can grab those.
Only because I feel that the first one was still better, but I want to see if that held up in the views of the critics and audience.
I'd agree with that too, Brian. I think the first one also you got to remember is like the original idea of what kind of creative
right.
is.
Yeah, so it was so cool.
Yeah, the original has a 98 critic score, whereas the new one has a 91. But audiences with 100,000 plus reviews gave it an 89%. Currently, Inside Out 2 with audiences sits at 96%. But also, that's only 3,000 people.
A lot. I was going to say a lot less people,
that's
too.
A lot less people.
But I think the thing is, too, that I was nervous about is there's a couple new voice actors taking over for other voice actors that we had in the past movie that we can go over. A brand new director that didn't direct the first movie, and it really hasn't directed anything pretty much up to this point in her career. And then you also have the aspect of like Pixar and sequels over the last 10 years hasn't been that successful. And sometimes they hit on them, sometimes they don't. There was like Finding Dory, which I actually kind of enjoyed. Then there's like Cars 2, you know what I mean, where it's like not as good. I think that's older than 10 years now. We're getting old. But it's like their sequels to these movies aren't really that great. Incredibles is one of my favorite Pixar movies, and Incredibles 2 wasn't as good, unfortunately. So
I'd agree with that.
So it's like not a for sure thing when you go see these movies, even though we love Pixar, that these sequels are going to be that good. And they've had like Soul, like Turning Red. They've had good recent Pixar movies, but like when they do sequels to these IPs, it makes us a little bit nervous going into it. So that's how I felt about it.
With this movie and kind of how it ends, do you guys foresee them making this a trilogy? We get a third movie out of this?
I feel like I could see it being a trilogy. I do kind of wonder though. Do you think this is like the Toy Story age gap as to why the Inside Out 2 sequel was so long that they wanted the kids to grow up knowing Inside Out? Because we were what? It was 2015, 2016 when that movie came out.
2015.
It came out in 2015.
Okay, so 9 years later, like, do you think it was one of those things where they wanted the kids to grow up, get a little bit older, and then they could grow off that, you know?
I think it's a little bit of that, and also they take quite a while to make the movies because they hold themselves to a really high standard, from my understanding. So I think it's probably a little bit of both, like wanting people to grow up, but also like these do take quite a long time to create. I mean, everything we're looking at is crafted from a computer in someone's brain. Like, there's not an actor there actually doing that. So I think it's probably a little bit of a mix of both. And I'm curious to see. I feel like we will get a trilogy. We got to see, Riley kind of in, like, I guess you could say, like, elementary / maybe was she going into middle school in the first one? Do you guys remember?
No, she was 12 in the first one. I just rewatched it, and she moved from Minnesota to San Diego, and she was going to 8th grade. So I think that from the first one to the second one, it's about a year, maybe.
Oh, okay,
just
so not
months,
a huge,
probably.
not a huge difference. But the second one is her kind of ending out 8th grade, going into high school. It sounds like, tryouts for the hockey team there and stuff like that. So I could definitely see us getting like a Riley senior year kind of thing, and all
maybe she's going into college.
yeah, all the complex emotions that are there at that point. Anxiety should be at an all-time high.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Because I rewatched the first one just to get ready for this one, and I've seen the first one a few times. I will say the first one had these moments where you get emotional. And I
Mhm.
read online after seeing the second one that some people were kind of getting emotional, and I could definitely see the aspects of that happening when you're watching this. But it didn't gut punch me the way like the first one did. I don't know if you guys felt the same way or.
I'd agree with that. I feel like it. This one had more of a. The first one was a little bit more like a sorrow and a sadness, where this one I feel like I had maybe a little bit more of like an appreciation and a gratitude, if that makes sense. Like I felt like it was they were sending a bigger, maybe an equally big message, but in a different way. Like
Mhm.
I felt like in this one, kind of the message that I took away from it is like, you know, you're kind of the pilot of your own journey. Don't let your emotions kind of skew your day-to-day life, because things can, and joy kind of, I don't remember what the quote was there at the end, but she basically kind of says that, like, I think she says it was like three-quarters of the way movie in, she's like, maybe part of growing up is anxiety is with us and we just have to live with it. And I was like, holy shit,
Yep.
that's deep for a kids movie, because I was like, it's so true. I mean, you just kind of, there's never like a day. I feel like there's never like a day where you're like, oh wow, I'm a grown up. It's just kind of like you just sort of realize it with time,
Mhm.
and
Well,
we're
what makes
still
it
young.
funnier too is like at a certain point, maybe this was just me, but like you get so sucked into the plot of the movie of them having to get back to the uh, main tower or whatever that you forget that they're emotions, and then you'll
Yeah,
see the way that it fucking like or the way Riley will react outside. And you're like, oh, that's right, like that's the whole purpose of this movie.
yeah, yeah. That's a good point, Brian. That you like forget that that's like the view inside her head. You
Hmm.
you know, it looks like this own. They're trying to get her like sense of they were calling it the sense of self back
Hmm.
to headquarters, and they're on this journey that I think was maybe similar to that first movie, how they had the journey. I liked how Joy was like, oh, I know a way through here. I thought we were going to get maybe a couple callbacks to when they went
Hmm.
through like that abstract land and stuff. They didn't quite make it through there, but they had other fun things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Brian too. You mentioned them possibly doing like a trilogy. Uh, just to talk about box office real quick, the movie cost 200 million to make,
Okay.
which it looked phenomenal. Obviously, the
Yeah,
voice
of
acting,
It
everything's
course.
like
great.
broke a
Yeah.
record, didn't it?
Yeah, so as of the day we're recording this, which is June 19th, it's at 380 million worldwide already. So it's made a profit already.
That's good.
With it not being out that long. And then yesterday alone on a Tuesday, it made $29 million, which is really, really good for an animated movie. And I think, Andrew, you mentioned it the day we went and saw it, Monday, I believe. I think you mentioned it. But with school being out now and kids needing to do something, um, especially with the weather being kind
I
of
was
hot,
gonna say with it
it
being
like
the
works out
hottest week
perfectly.
of the fucking summer.
Right,
Yeah.
for kids to go to the movies. So I think that's like helping it out a lot.
So
But I
Disney's
thought that was
behind the
pretty interesting.
weather.
Plus, on top of that,
Could be.
today, a lot of people it's now recognized as a holiday. So like as we're doing this, the number could have skyrocketed and we wouldn't even
Right.
know it.
That's a good point.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
a
A
good
lot of
point.
parents might be off work. You never know. So that's pretty interesting. To talk about the voice acting changed. Now, Andrew, I told you, I think I said it was anger and fear. I messed up. It was fear and disgust. So fear was Bill Hader, who's now played by Tony Hale.
Mm.
And then disgust was Mindy Kaling from The Office and several other things as well. And she's played by Lisa Lapira. And so those two have now been recasted. And I read up on it as to why that happened. And I'm cool with the recasting. I think it worked. It didn't bother me after the first like
I did.
couple
I,
minutes.
d-
I got used
I
to it.
didn't even notice until you mentioned it.
I thought about it for a split second and I go no, because now I'm not gonna like I didn't want to trick myself into worrying about it, so I blew it
Yeah.
off.
Honestly, disgust wasn't too noticeable. I think fear was just because I am a big Tony Hale fan. I am a big Bill Hader fan. So like they weren't trying to, like, Tony wasn't trying to mimic Bill Hader's voice at all. He was trying to do his own thing, and Tony just played Sporky in Toy Story 4. So like, Pixar's
Oh,
used
okay.
to working with him. Yeah. So also, Brian, he's Buster from Arrested Development. If you're not too
All
familiar,
right,
but
I thought
yeah,
that was him. Okay.
yeah. So, and I just rewatched the first one, so maybe that's why I could tell more. Maybe if I hadn't rewatched it again, I wouldn't have even noticed. But it was something that I noticed. I did read up though. Amy Fowler, or Poehler, sorry, Amy Poehler, who plays Joy, the lead of the movie, she got $5 million to come back, from what I heard. And Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling were only offered like 100K. And so I think
Oh,
that's why, apparently, that's the rumor. So that's why they didn't want to come back, and that's why they had to recast, from what I read. So, and I don't know how much Phyllis Smith is getting for Sadness. I hope it's a few mil because she's just as big of a star as Joy is in the
oh my
movie.
gosh. So I guess yeah, I wanna ask that. I mean, first off, if they were only getting 100K, I would have probably said the same thing.
And they're big
I
parts in this movie.
I was gonna say
Mhm.
they're kind of pretty. I guess you'd call them support. Joy and maybe sadness are like the two key ones, but I mean they're pretty critical in the movie and how it functions. I want to ask you guys, which if you had to be one emotion, what would you be? That's out of this movie. Inside Out 2.
Oh,
See.
that's not in this movie?
No, that's in the movie. So you got to
Oh,
pick
it's in the
one
movie.
that you feel like couldn't.
Nostalgia.
Nostalgia
Okay.
was funny as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, that is true. And when she came out, I like thought about it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, like we're pretty nostalgic now." And then I go, "No, wait, I hate when we hang out and we become fucking member berries." And I go,
Yeah.
"That's us like telling nostalgia to go back in the closet."
Yeah, they're like,
Um,
wait 10 more years,
yeah.
which is perfect age, actually. Mid
Yeah, no.
20s.
She and they said that was funny. You need at least a graduation and maybe a wedding before you're allowed to come out.
Yeah. I'll go back downstairs. Yeah, that was funny. This movie has a lot of comedy in it. But
It
Andrew,
does.
what would you say?
I think disgust. I relate with.
Yeah, I could. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like
But
Josh would be. What would Josh be?
Valentina.
mm,
I
Josh
think her
is.
I don't
emotion was
know.
just boring, but
Josh
she
is
was like cool.
freaky.
I don't think that was an emotion.
It's coming in the new one.
I
Nah.
okay. Another thing that I thought was good in this movie, we're just kind of spitballing throwing around here. I liked how when the construction crew comes in for puberty right at the beginning of the movie,
Hmm.
they destroy headquarters and then they just leave. They take off on the shift and head out. Union break, it looked like, but they put up a sign that says like "Sorry, puberty's messy," and I thought that was funny because it's true. It's you're getting all these new emotions and different feelings, and in your head, it's gonna be a mess. So they just left it a mess. I think by the end, it was cleaned up though.
Hmm.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was all
yeah,
back to normal.
they had the place rearranged.
Yeah, I think like her arguing with her mom. Now, obviously, we've never been teenage girls going through puberty. But
True.
we have sisters or cousins that we know have gone through it. But I think like the whole argument with her waking up, and talking with her mom and yelling at her mom, and her mom being like subconsciously saying she does smell, like all that
Hmm.
stuff was just really funny. There is like a lot of comedy in this movie. Um, One of the funniest scenes for me, and I told Andrew this. It's Pouchy, the character. There's a character in this
You're
movie
talking
that
about when he's digging in his mouth.
yeah, but like every time he's just on screen, there's a character that is basically like kind of like Blue's Clues, Dora, where they talk to the camera, little kids like
Mhm.
shows basically. And yeah, that character just would crack me up every time. I almost started like crying just from pure laughing. I couldn't
I
stop
liked
it. He had to
I
yell at
liked
me.
that they threw that in there. You know, a couple of different
Animation
which
styles.
yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
animation
I got you.
styles. They had the Pouchy and they had the Street Fighter guy.
Yeah,
The
Smash
Street
Bros
Fighter
or
was the
whatever.
funniest fucking one.
Yeah,
Right.
so I don't think Pixar has done that before. I could
No,
be
that was
wrong.
more Wreck-It Ralph-esque. That's what I was thinking about. Wreck-It Ralph was like the first animation I feel like where they had a hodgepodge almost.
Which
Yeah,
is a fantastic movie that
Great
is
film.
Pixar level that they didn't create actually, just
Yeah.
Disney.
still Disney.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
was it just Disney?
yeah.
For some reason I was thinking DreamWorks, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, that character was funny. That whole vault scene was just really good.
Did you guys stay for
And
the
it,
end credit to see the giant big secret?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I did not stay. I was ready to go
Idiot.
because I had to pee, but I did see it on TikTok.
Oh, there
I guess
actually is an
Yeah.
end credit
yeah,
scene.
it was
Uh-huh.
like 20 seconds.
That's
Um,
funny.
It's just
Damn.
Joy goes back for the big dark secret, and the big dark secret is that they burnt a hole in the couch or something like that with a candle.
Oh.
Yeah.
yeah, the carpet
Uh huh.
or something. Yeah. So, but it's kind of cool because like you would think that you have memories that you just kind of lock away in your subconscious that you don't want to think about or forget about, and so it's funny that those things are in there.
Yeah, and I like that at the beginning Joy's trying to, throw away these memories that might not be good and might not be, but those are, the memories, and Joy kind of learns that kind of make us who we are, the good and the bad
You gotta
and
learn from
everything.
your
So I think
mistakes.
yeah, they literally do. So I think that was cool to see. Now, what I wonder is if Riley in high school, um, when she actually gets into the real world and becomes depressed, if sadness becomes this big beast monster that just eats all the other emotions. Me and Emma were joking about that. Can sadness grow into a massive monster that takes
Like
over
sadness
headquarters?
change. No, because there's still people that are depressed and sad. Like you can be depressed happy, depressed joy.
That's true. That's true. I
Like
feel
look
like
at
sadness.
Josh. He masks it every day.
Good point.
Well, they show that at the end of the first movie where they can both use the panel at the same time, kind of
Mm-hmm.
to make memories.
Yeah.
So, um, I do want to talk about this too. Riley as a character because they show her a lot, similar to the first movie, but she makes a ton of bad decisions in this movie.
She's just a
So
bad kid, dude.
yeah, which makes sense when you see what's going on in her head. But she has these two best friends, and they're all in middle school together. They're graduating 8th grade. They're going to separate high schools, so they're not going to be with her anymore in
What type
school.
of fuck ass system is that? How do they find out that they're going to different schools? Like their parents would have to tell them, like, "Hey, just so you know, we're transferring school districts," and I'm sure Riley's parents would have made it happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if the area they're in, it's so big that they have multiple different high schools.
That's
Maybe
that's
that's
what
what I'm
I think
assuming.
it is. I think
Yeah,
that they're in like San Francisco.
So now they're gonna have to
Um,
battle each other all the time too. That's not only that they go to different high
battle each
schools, they're
other.
gonna be in the same fucking division that they're constantly gonna play each other.
Yeah, they probably would.
This is
I
messed
assume,
up.
but yeah. So it's like I mean, we know how it is. Like when you're a kid growing up, and maybe you change schools, you don't talk to those people as much. Maybe they're not your best friends anymore, just because you're not seeing them every day in class and stuff. So it is like a huge change, and obviously she's going through puberty as well. So she kind of like makes these bad decisions throughout the whole movie. But I never was like, "Oh, this character's annoying me," or "I'm rooting against her," or anything like that. I don't know. Is that how you guys felt about it? Like you're still you still want the best for her.
yeah, I still
You want
wanted
her
the
to get her
best.
shit together. She needed a little
Yeah,
shake, is what it felt like.
that I agree. Anxiety needed to take a little bit of a back seat, like she did at the end of the movie. Also, I just looked up for fun. In San Francisco, there are 32 high schools in that school district. So
Wow.
Jesus.
yeah, we grew up in kind of, I guess you could say, a small town compared to that. And our graduating class wasn't small, as a couple hundred people, but
That is
32 high
pretty
schools.
nuts.
Yeah.
A lot of Michigan shout outs too in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Hey,
Which was
Michigan.
fun.
Dude, that
They
was one of
do.
the funniest parts too, where Fear's like, "Well, we got to live with this now.
Yeah.
This is us now. It's Michigan people."
They're close. They're close, so they could get away with it.
They're close enough. Yeah, I assume because at the end of the movie, they continue to be friends in high school. I'm curious if she ever told them the truth, like, "Hey, I'm from Minnesota, actually, so you can stop."
Well, they
calling me
talked about
Michigan."
Minnesota at the end.
They did.
Oh,
Yeah.
did they?
Once.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. So
She
did fix
probably.
it. Okay.
She probably finally came around and told them the truth. Now,
Dude,
did
you
you
know,
guys ever? Sorry,
well,
Brian. Go ahead.
I was
No,
just
go
gonna
ahead.
say, I think the worst, like, cringeworthy part was when anxiety was making her freak out, and then she dyed her hair. I was like, that was gross. I didn't like that.
Ooh, see, I
She's just
thought
trying too hard.
I thought the band spot was when they were talking about music. That was
Ooh, yeah,
I was
yeah.
having like secondhand
Yep,
embarrassment
yep.
as a viewer for her. I'm like, oh god, just say what you like. But she's young and she's a teen and she's trying to fit in, and anxiety's in her brain trying to, you want to be cool, you want to fit in with these people. But I was sitting there as a viewer having like secondhand embarrassment for Riley. And I think that was the most cringy moment.
Yeah, I like too how like the anxiety character had these plans in place, like so far ahead of different outcomes that could happen. Because I feel like that truly is anxiety, where it's like,
That's
well,
how it
if I do this,
works.
then this can happen. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
thought that aspect of it was really cool for her character, who's
Yeah,
played
and
by Maya Hawke, by the way, who's great.
I thought it was cool how anxiety kind of takes over imagination land.
Yeah.
Your imagination, your creativity that's inside your head is temporarily turned offline, so that way you can put forth 78 different situations. And anxiety's good and bad in real life. It helps you prepare for the future, and see things. And that's one of the I think that's actually the reason that we can communicate, and that are the two reasons that we're like where we're at, humans today, because we can. No other animal is like looking forward towards the future except
Yeah,
us.
and maybe like for example, you want to go skydiving, but you have really bad anxiety and you don't end up doing it. But if you did do it, maybe you love it, right? So it's like
Yeah.
sometimes it can hurt you, sometimes it can help you. So yeah, I thought that was really cool, and it makes sense for that to be a
and
pretty
I
popular
and I
emotion.
liked how they did this in the movie too. When anxiety gets there, fear right away is like, "Oh, I'm gonna love her." We
Hmm.
could get along great,
Yep.
because it's true. They do in real, in real life, those two emotions play off of each other greatly. Like you just said, Josh, with skydiving. If you're scared of skydiving, okay, well, your anxiety is going to put together the 47 situations where you splat onto the ground, and not to do with having a good time.
Hmm.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
so
liked how they
I thought that was
connected that.
cool. Yeah. We didn't talk about embarrassment. Was that the big
Embarrassment
emotion's
was a
name?
The
good
big
one.
guy.
You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might be the one that I go with as my emotion, because I feel like
Okay.
he would just do something and then you feel it like just on your inside, and they did a great way of portraying that. Now, I mean, you guys know me. I feel like I'm very outgoing, but like I feel like on the inside, embarrassment, I was like, "That's my dog." Like I get it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we all have a little bit of that. No, I thought he was. I think they did a great job with all of the new emotions that they brought in. Like they did just enough, and they did a good job of like kind of portraying them as like the antagonists or the villains, but they were never really the villains. Anxiety tries to explain that to Joy, like, no, 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 you don't understand. Like this is part of the situation. Like growing up, like we're here now and we're part of the crew. You're going to have to take a little back seat, obviously, in the end. Riley gets on some antidepressants and mood stabilizers.
Yeah,
Um,
there was a tweet about that. It's like, do you think when Riley gets a little bit older and they put her on antidepressants and anti-anxiety med, that like new emotions pop in the head and just beat the shit out of, like, dudes in all white beat the shit out of anxiety and anxiety just goes away?
That'd be funny.
po- possibly.
And what's that new thing they introduced in this movie where they go and put the I forget what it's called, but they put the memories in the water and then it makes the strings to actually
Oh,
make
it's the
It's
sense of self.
sense of
sense of self.
self.
Okay.
The
Yeah, I
memories
thought
Like
that
go
you're,
was a really
into
cool
it.
aspect
Yeah.
too.
And again, I kind of call that as like the colors are going to mix. You're not meant to be just one thing as we grow. But
Yeah.
again, it's
yeah,
for kids.
you're no, no, but I mean, it's for kids and adults to a degree. The sense of self. I mean, there's a lot of things that a kid is going to go to that movie and not pick up at all.
Right.
So I think that's where Pixar does a fantastic job, is mixing where a parent can go with their kids and their kids will enjoy the colors, but the parent might enjoy the message
Hmm. And then you just
that's
push it
there.
on the kid and you eventually teach them that, which is like, it's cool and easy to do. Again, like you said, with the colors. Like, even me, if you wanted to go in there and not pay attention, at least you got something cool on the screen.
Yeah, it's a great. They do a great job with their visuals, regardless. So you still get to check that out.
Well, I think that's one of the best things about Pixar too is like, and that's what always has us coming back to it is we grew up with a lot of these movies like Cars, Finding Nemo, Monsters Inc., those movies, and it's like you can go back and rewatch it as an adult and still find a lot of enjoyment about it. And maybe you're watching it a different way, and maybe those hidden messages in there, can help you where you're at currently in life. So I think that's what's great about Pixar movies, and like DreamWorks does it a little bit too. I'd say with like Shrek or the Madagascar movies, where it's like if you're an adult, you'll pick up things that maybe kids wouldn't. But the way Pixar does it is just amazing, truly.
I agree.
Yeah, and we talked about how amazing the movie looks. I mean, like if you go watch the first Toy Story movie, which is '95, like it still looks great.
It still holds up, which is
right. Almost 30 years old.
terrifying that it's that old and they did such a damn good job then. So
right, yeah. So it looks incredible, and now we're looking at like leaves and shit. And it's like, damn, that looks good, or water. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, they've got it to the point where there's I think there were shadows in Toy Story 1, but now you have like advanced shadows and movements where like even the slightest little thing is creating. It looks photorealistic. I mean, it looks real now, which is crazy. And the cool thing about Pixar is like it only gets better. Like they only get better. Pretty cool company.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that's kind of everything I have to talk about the movie. I don't know if you guys want to get into scores. The ending we kind of hit on already, I feel like. Ended good, obviously, like every other Pixar movie would.
It was cool too, but also kind of a gripe was that at the ending, before we get the total happy ending, Riley has that breakthrough moment, which is just a full-blown panic attack after anxiety has truly taken over, and then the emotions get back. And what that causes just a giant breakdown, which is when all the memories fade into the sense of self. And, everything good, everything bad that's happened now is just back. But Riley has a panic attack. And it's cool that they can show that. The only downside of that was that it only lasted 2 minutes. Like, most people have a panic attack, and it's more like 10, 15 minutes. But, again, I understand it's a kid's movie, and we were crushed for time.
Yeah, and she's also a kid. I wasn't having 15-minute panic attacks at 13 years old. So it might have been shorter.
I don't know. She might be the most sentient girl out there.
Well, to her credit, she got hit with a lot. She's losing her best friend. She's got to go to high school. She started puberty.
I got one for you guys. Did you catch when they're going to drop off Riley to camp? Riley's dad looks at her mom and goes, "She's gonna be gone for the whole weekend," and does like a wink. Did you catch that?
I did.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny as hell. I go, all right, so there's Pixar with one that'll go right over their head.
But yeah, Brian, the part where they're digging through Pouchy's, I wonder if Angie could hear me, but the one part where Pouchy is like getting his mouth destroyed by anger, which is fucking hilarious. I could not stop laughing. Yeah.
It was a good bit for
They
sure.
had to call him to show up. It's so funny. That's so great. I don't think I laughed that much compared to the first one. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
I laughed more in this one.
That's what
I would agree with that.
Yeah. But yeah, I could go into scores first for me. I don't really want to compare the first movie and the second movie too much. I know I already have, but I think they're both pretty good, really good movies. So, like I mentioned, I was a little nervous going into this just because Pixar sequels aren't always the best. But I think this one worked, and if they ended up making a third, I'd be happy to go see it for sure. And I know, like Sydney, for example, she enjoyed the second one more than the first. So, definitely there's definitely going to be people out there.
So did Emma, actually.
Yes, there's definitely going to be people out there that maybe don't agree with what we think, but I still really enjoyed it. So I'm going to go with an 89. I definitely think it's worth going to see in theaters, and I'll definitely rewatch it again in the future. So
nice. Brian, you want to go?
Yeah. Again, I would hate to compare it to the first one, but I do want it to be said I think the first one is better. And again, it's not by much because, like you guys have said, like this one was more upbeat and this was more kind of fun. The other one was like Riley becoming the young girl into like an actual or I don't even know, like I guess a toddler into a young child. It's like that span, and her beginning to actually get her sense of self before it becomes a thing, which obviously happened in that 1.5 year gap or whatever. But like that would probably to me be like the solid 90. And then this movie came in and is not too far off. I still had fun with it. There wasn't anything really to complain about. But I'd go ahead and give this like an 87.
Okay. Gotcha. I'll finish this off here. And I agree with everything you guys say. I don't really have much to change there, in regards, and I wouldn't change too much with the movie. It was enjoyable. I think it's the right length, especially for a kids movie. Pixar puts out good art, I guess you could call it. I'm rarely disappointed. I think the first one might have been a little bit better. For this, I'm feeling a 93.
Okay.
I think I'd maybe put the first one at a 94, if I was throwing them out there. So just slightly better. And I don't know if there's very many Pixar movies that I'd throw below a 90. I'm a huge fan.
Cars 2.
Love it.
Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Good Dinosaur.
Okay. Yeah.
Color Me Red.
Never saw
Color
that
Red.
one. Yeah.
What
That's
was
the
the
only.
one with the
That's
flame
the only
in
one.
the water?
I liked that
Elemental.
one. Elemental.
Elemental. Was that good?
That was-
I never watched it.
That one was
Pretty
good. That one was
I think I like
good,
this
and
more.
Toy Story
And-
4?
Toy Story 4 was good. It just wasn't needed.
Still a great movie.
Lightyear?
Yeah, Lightyear is bad.
Lightyear wasn't very good. That was one. Check out our Lightyear review. Did we?
It's
review
like our
that?
first episode.
I was gonna say. I think that's
you
our.
guys did that
second
fucking forever
I-
ago.
I think that's our first or second episode.
I think
Check
I
out-
was in like the mid to low 70s, so I gave it a higher. But like nowadays, I feel like I don't like it as much. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's grown
Uh,
bad taste, I think,
I think that's
for
fair.
me. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
those are good scores. I think so. Next week we don't have anything scheduled yet, but obviously there's a lot of new TV shows. We got since last week we've gotten 3 new episodes of The Boys. We got new House of Dragons on Sunday, this past Sunday. So I think maybe next week we can just kind of catch up on everything, talk about movie news, just do like an episode like that. Unless you guys have any ideas.
There's a couple of things out too. A couple horror
Yeah.
movies.
I was
There's
going to say, is that Longlegs movie out yet, Josh? The one I just sent you today?
I think it's July,
Oh,
beginning
it's
of
July.
July, because we're getting Maxine in July as well, beginning of July too. So
And
we're
we're
definitely
at
doing
the
that.
in the next week or two we get the A Quiet Place movie as well. So we
Yep.
look
Plus, I'm
look
like
forward
busy
to
with the bear.
Bear
Oh,
season
we
3.
got
Yep.
there. We got a lot of stuff coming, and we'll try to put out some fun content. Something that's
Yeah,
worth
Quiet
listening
Place,
to.
Bear season 3, and Maxine are all on the schedule already. So
Yeah.
definitely doing those 3 for sure. But yeah, we got to hit on House of Dragons and everything too, because that first episode was nuts. But yeah,
Yes.
thank you guys for
All right.
listening. That was Inside Out 2, and we will see you guys next time.
All right, bye. Love
See ya.
you guys.